Hi, we're back talking leaves with Rob. Rob, I'd like to hear a little bit about how you were inspired to do art on leaves. How did this whole concept come to fruition?
Well, it did stem from the Don Cherry print, and I can remember the next day sitting in my studio looking at these leaves in my hand going, why? I mean, it's simple, you know. I'm looking at these leaves and going, okay, these jumped out. Everybody loved the leaves. They didn't really say much about my painting. So I just sat there, and I remember I had a photograph on the wall that was done of when Paul Henderson scored his goal in 1972. And I was sitting there with the leaf, just doing one of these, kind of like this. And Paul was off in the background, and I went, oh man, this is awesome. And like I say, it stemmed from, you know, my years of seeing Peter Puck.
Yeah.
And so I decided to create a leaf, and I was just telling you earlier that with the leaf I illustrated these gloves and skates and everything, and I put in a drop shadow so that there was a leaf in there. And I had been to the theater around that time, and there was a Star Wars poster out that was made out of this styrene, and it was all three-dimensional. I thought, you know what, I got to make this thing happen three-dimensionally. So I've actually took down the company name from Montreal and literally drove to Montreal the next day, and then I wound up spending 3 days there because they had never really done anything like this before, and I wanted the gloves to come out. So I literally wound up having to sit there and actually sculpt the gloves and everything, the identical size. And we did a lot of tests, and we blew a lot of tests, I got to tell you that too. I mean, I was there for, like, nothing was lining up. It was crazy, but I mean, we finally did get it, and then we ran about 3,000 of these, and I did them in 2 different styles. I had gloves, red, white, and black. Wow. And then blue. I had blue gloves done. But I mean, once you get the gist, you know, you drop the leaf in once it's painted. Yeah. But then I started to play around with, you know, people were saying you should put a face in these leaves, and I actually tried it, and I didn't like it. I thought that Canadians were. I could get really artsy-fartsy here, but yes, you know, Canadians are faceless. Yeah. I mean, this is as Canadian as you can get. Because we're unified. I mean, and some of these leaves have holes in them. Some of them are tattered, and you know, I can tell you that, well, that's just a typical Canadian. That's an old fighting Canadian, or that's a torn jersey. I mean, there are some leaves that are just really banged up, but I mean, isn't that what life's all about too, right? I mean, I don't think at the end of the day when we're all checking out that we haven't got a few battle scars. Absolutely. But you know, as so how do you do? What's the process for? Well, first of all, you got to wait till fall. Yeah. and what are you looking for in a leaf? The size, obviously. Purtiness. I'm serious. I could literally drive down the street and go, wow, that's a beautiful tree, and I'll stop. I've got my ladder in the back of the van, and I jump into the tree and pick up some leaves, and I really jump around because I've discovered that there's so many. That's the other thing I've learned about leaves now. I mean, I never really thought that there's like 25 different styles of maple leaves out there. Oh my goodness! Not to mention big ones, little ones, but generally, what I've done is I've endorsed what children have been doing. You know, they pick the leaves, they put them in phone books. I've got them loaded in phone books. Then I take out my trusty iron and how long do you leave them in the phone books then? What's the... those ones have been left in for a while. Like this is February. I put those in November, but I've only done that. I've kept them in there because of, shall we call it, lazy. I got a little lazy. But they're fine in there. But then I put them into wax. And then I iron them just like kids used to do in the school, and I iron both sides so that it preserves them. And then whenever a job comes in that I need to do, I basically jump in there and break the seal and start painting.
And now, how can people commission you to do?
Well, I do have a website, and I do get business on my website, but a lot of, because of my involvement in hockey and lacrosse over the years, you know, a lot of it is word of mouth. But I have advertised with the OMHA, which is the Ontario Minor Hockey Association. I got blitzkrieg with a ton of orders a couple of years ago, and I want to do that again because it was amazing. You know, just a little bit of advertising in the hockey world, and you know, it's pretty friendly. And I got to admit, women really like this. I really get a lot of women ordering these. Don't get too many guys. Because I really think that they men, like myself even, I mean, when you look at a leaf, you go, man, that's work. You know, I'm going to be, I got to bag it and put it out to the road. But me, I'm going, hey, ching, ching.
Oh, yeah. Well, and you know what, even how we started this interview with, you know, combining art with sports with life. I mean, this is a true reflection of that combination. And I like your expression of a leaf, you know, not one leaf is identical.
Yeah,
so
like every one of these is one of a kind.
Yeah.
When I do paint them and frame them, I always put these on, these little corner wraps, and right in here it does say one of a kind, even though, you know, I've said earlier that some of my clients still don't realize that that's a real leaf. These are real leaves. And I figured out a way to paint them.
Yeah, what's the paint that you... I mean, how does it? How is it that it works?
No, there's something. Well,
maybe you can't tell your secrets.
I can't tell you exactly what I do to my paints, because people will understand that when you put wax, it's like trying to paint onto a wax floor. The paint repels and it does all this goofy stuff. But I did learn how to do a little cheating in my art school days on how to make certain paints work. So there.
But that's the trade secret.
Find out yourself.
Yeah. Now, you know, speaking of commissions, I know that a couple of years ago, Oakville celebrated our 150th, and I think
as a matter of fact, I picked a bunch of leaves, as you can see. I still got a whole whack of these in here. Anyways, I picked these nice little leaves, and I spray painted them gold. And they kind of look nice. And then I actually went and got this. I actually had the word Oakville printed here with a stamp guy just on Spears Road. And I had the full word Oakville there, and then I had the leaf off to the side. And then I realized, you know what? If we just put this right over the word Oakville, it says Oakville. So we took that other part out, and I kept dropping these in.
Yeah.
And how I fortified it, I illustrated this, the old oak tree that you see on Bronte Road, that they were planning on taking down, but there was enough people in the town of Oakville who fought for it. So then I had it etched into the mat board, and I did 365 of these. Wow! And town of Oakville bought a few, or no, not a few, but they bought quite a few. And I did a lot of charities. They took them, and you know, we got busy. Yeah. We got really busy there.
Wow! Well, just amazing. Rob, I thank you for inviting us into your studio.
It's my pleasure
to see your masterpieces.
Thank you.
You know, in closing, I'd be interested to know, especially in the world where sport is sports, art is arts, you know, nature is nature, how come combining all of this matters? I mean, if in closing, I guess your final remarks, if you could speak to, you know, arts matters because.
Okay, I would say it matters because we're surrounded by it. I mean, we talked at the beginning of the show about me and my first drawing, and somebody recognizing that's a cat. maybe it wasn't a cat, I don't know, but it was an animal. But I mean, that goes right back to the caveman days. They're drawing on walls. I mean, that's what it's all about. It's communication. I mean, music is an art. Mm-hmm. Movies are an art. Fashion's an art. I mean, we're surrounded by it, so the things for granted, don't we?
Yes. Yeah.
And I mean, like I said earlier, is that if I was to make $1 million and win a lottery or something, I'd probably be back here tomorrow doing the same thing, because this is what it does matter. It certainly matters to me.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Rob.
No problem.
And there we have it, combining sports with arts, with nature, because arts matter.
Arts matter.
Megan, as always, it's so inspiring when we get to meet people who are so strong in our local community. And obviously, Rob is, number one, a proud Canadian. Mm-hmm. Number two,
so creative.
An incredible artist, and has such an amazing perception about things, and is not afraid to put them down on canvas, really. Or on a leaf.
The new idea. Well, exactly.
Yeah.
I just love, I love being invited into artist homes because they're so, they inspire me, to tell you the truth. They, the ideas that come from a thought, like as Rob was saying, he's holding up the leaf and he's looking like, I wonder, like knowing that the leaf has meaning.
Yes.
Right? Mm-hmm. Because he listened to the critics. Mm-hmm. All of us are critics. Mm-hmm. Hearing, there was something about that leaf, and then holding it up and thinking, what is it? It's that next step. It's that step that creates that it's the creativity. It's the inspiration. Yeah. It's in theater. It's what we call the golden moment, when you've got it. You get it, and it's like waking. It's like giving birth. That's what it's like. Giving birth to something that is going to have meaning for many years. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So what you can see, I'm inspired.
I know. The aha moment for those of us who are not in theater. The aha moment. He has contributed greatly to Oakville, and obviously, I mean, can you imagine seeing Rob MacDougall climbing a tree with a ladder after oak leaves and maple leaves that he's going to spray paint and wax and so on and so forth. He's a quite an inspiration to mixing all of these things together. Thanks so very much for joining us on Arts Matter this week.